Namaskar to everyone, and thank you very much for a very generous introduction. I had stated that only 4 lines would have been enough. My gratitude to the Almighty Lord for such a wonderful divine arrangement. We all are together. Gratitude to the ACPR family for inviting me, dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, my dear sisters and brothers of India. Let me begin this lecture with one of my favorite stories. And like all the stories, this story begins with Once Upon a Time. Once upon a time, in a village, there was a teacher who was invited to address a group of youth. And as he entered the hall, and as he stood, and as he was just about to begin, he asked a question. Do you know on which topic I'm going to speak today? And a very enthusiastic group of students said, Yes, we know on which topic you're going to speak. So he smiled back and said, If you already know on which topic I'm going to speak, why should I speak? And he left the hall. There was a lot of discussion, and they wanted to listen to the speaker. And so, almost after 6 months, when he was again invited, there was a bigger group. And of course, there was the same question which the speaker asked. Do you know on which topic I'm going to speak? And you know, now the answer was, no, we do not know on which topic you're going to speak. And he said, if you do not know on which topic I'm going to speak, why should I speak? And he left. Now there was a lot of contemplation. And almost after a year, the speaker was requested, why don't you please come? And now a bigger hall and the same curiosity. And as he looked at the audience, they had guessed the question. He again asked the question, do you know on which topic I'm going to speak? And by now, there was a strategy which was planned. One side said yes, and one side said no. And he smiled and said, not a problem. Those who said no on which topic I'm going to speak, they don't know, may as well ask the yes. Why should I speak? Now the curiosity, frustration, whatever we may say, had increased, and it was almost after 4 years when the organizers went to the speaker. He said, this is the last time I'm coming. And now it was a big stadium. People were discussing and they were very curious to know the answer. And as he stood, he looked everywhere and he asked, do you know on which topic I'm going to speak today? There was no yes, there was no no, there was no yes and no. The hall was as quiet as it is now. And after a pause of a few minutes, he said, yes, I'm going to speak on silence. And I was waiting for that silence to emerge from within. Because if your minds are full of thoughts, how are we going to discuss about silence? When we focus on Gurudev Ranade's thoughts, the rich spiritual legacy of India, this is an entire legacy of this silence. This is a legacy of looking within, understanding who we are. And in this process, the discussion which we are going to have, and for the last 2 days, this entirely is a reminder to all of us to look within, to be more focused, and to understand what this means to us. And so the topic which I'm going to discuss is somewhere connected to that silence, somewhere focusing on peace, and my title of my presentation is Relevance of Gurudev Ranade's Philosophy, Reconceptualizing Global Peace Education by Strengthening Social, Emotional, and Spiritual Learning. So, I have asked this question to myself when I was preparing this paper. Why this paper? And why this paper is because peace is essential within and in the world outside. However, as a researcher, as a human person, we all know that there is disharmony growing everywhere and there is lack of peace, which means that it is not easy to be at peace. Because if that was so easy, we wouldn't take such a long time to even realize that peace is important. And so, when we look at what does that mean, it means not just telling people we have to be at peace from a philosophical angle. It means deeper awareness that what are those dimensions of peace, a pro-life attitude, and efforts to awaken the world within to connect with the self and the world outside. So from philosophical angle, when I analyze that why is it taking us so long to even be at peace with ourselves? If we just ask ourselves just now, just this minute, we have so many thoughts and some of us are not at peace and we don't know how to get there. And so, when we look at the role of philosophy in general and Indian philosophy in particular, it helps us to understand the essence of peace. When we look at Indian philosophy, my submission in this paper is that I am trying to view Indian philosophy as a strong foundation of peace education. It is very interesting to say that we are very happy that we have such an important legacy. But the question is, what next? And on one side in the world, we have so much of violence. And another side, we have so much of wisdom. But there is nothing this side we see the integration of preventing this. And that's why in this context, I see Professor Ranade's approach as a treatise on peace education. And so, the objectives of this research paper, what I'm trying to focus is an ongoing process to establish the role of Indian philosophy in reconceptualizing global peace education. Second is analysis of the tenets of philosophy of R.D. Ranade in context to global peace education. Third, reconceptualizing global peace education by strengthening the components of social, emotional, and spiritual learning with special reference to Professor R.D. Ranade's approach. And D, development of global peace education module based on Gurudev Ranade's thoughts for global citizens. In short, my dear brothers and sisters, we have very less time and more work. Less time because we see that when we read about violence, to just give you the statistics, we see global peace missing. Global peace is at its lowest level since the inception of the peace index. Global peacefulness has deteriorated every year since 2014. There are currently 59 active state-based conflicts. We have conflicts every day, and it is not just the conflicts. The global economic impact of violence, it is equivalent, it has impacted our GDP. The military expenditure is going high. When we look at peace and health, when we look at the WHO analysis, healthcare attacks have increased, mental health crisis. 10% of people who experience traumatic events will have serious mental health problems, and another 10% will also have some problems with their abilities to function, and we will have a disease burden. Now, somebody asked me, "You're a philosopher, so this is not your area when we look at the empirical." And I said, no. When we look at philosophy and when we look at its dimension, we cannot talk about peace. We have to understand what the world is going through, and we, as human persons, are experiencing it every now and then. And so, when I say that we have done enough philosophizing on peace for many years, to be at peace, the phase 2, we are all trying to spread peace in some way, somewhere we are trying, in our own way, in our families, whether there is peace. Are we peace ambassadors in our families, at workplace, in our community? Are we helping the other to understand the relevance of that? And in context to the nation, spreading peace, if it is at individual level, if it is at family level, if it is at community level, it will be at country level, and it will be at global level. And that's why I say we have less time and more work. Less time in the sense that what we understand, we have to immediately focus. And that's why we are in a blessed country called India, where we are very grateful to the saints, the philosophers who have already done so much, who have already given us this rich literature. And that's why when we say that global peace is missing, peace is impacting health, India has a very, very important role to play in preventing the dangers ahead. And that's why when I look at Indian philosophy, when we look at the spiritual framework of Indian philosophy, which focuses on the inner and outer development, focusing on the dynamics on the intangible realm, that is, how can we live a purposeful life, and how can we focus on who we are, what we can become, what are our bad habits, what are our negative thoughts, how there is hatred when we look at everyday life situations, whether when you're in a traffic, whether you are somewhere, you see hatred sometimes. How can we eliminate it? How can we become aware that we may also have certain dimensions which are not towards peace but away from peace? How can we become aware? And after becoming aware, how do we awaken the potentialities which are in us? And if we try to focus on this, when we look at Indian philosophy, it is holistic. It focuses on the physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual dimension. But now is the time to start working on it. When we look at philosophy of yoga, it is not just that I do asanas, but can I be 24/7 in yoga? In whatever way I can be, that also is a peace perspective. And that's why we have organizations like UNESCO and so many others who are focusing on peace education. But peace education has been a part of Indian approach since many centuries. We have not documented it. We have not said it is peace education, but we have been focusing on the dimension of peace. And so in this context, when we look at Gurudev Ranade's dimension from a global peace education aspect, focus first is on enriching awareness. So when Gurudev Ranade speaks about mysticism, as a researcher, when I'm reading about his dimension of mysticism, as I understand, what he wants to convey is mysticism is not a proprietary of few. Like when we look at Jnaneshwara's Amrutanubhava, that anybody can get those kinds of experiences anytime. And the focus is to become aware. So when we talk about silent enjoyment with God, it is not one fine day. It is anywhere, anytime we may have that kind of an experience. And that's why are we focusing on that when Gurudev Ranade speaks about intuition must back intelligence, will, and feeling. Like Sri Aurobindo says, that these are the inner instruments we have with us. When Vivekananda speaks about each soul is potentially divine, which means all of us, everybody sitting here across the H bar, we all have that potentiality to be better than yesterday. But are we aware about it? And that's why we are trying to focus on becoming more and more aware. Our systems of education have to integrate, and peace education should not be a separate dimension, but trying to integrate it with education so that in classrooms, when we have our students and our teachers, this engagement with peace should be the most important dimension apart from the subject learning which takes place. And that's why when Gurudev Ranade speaks about mysticism, wisdom, and he's trying to focus on pausing, when Ramdas says, Das Bodha, which Gurudev quotes, one should spend one's entire life in strenuous work and yet again in steady contemplation in a moment. So, when we look at Gurudev Ranade's analysis of the saint tradition of Maharashtra or Karnataka, we have to decode what is that inner realm of peace education which he is trying to say. And he's also trying to say to become aware. Very interestingly, Gurudev Ranade says intellectual power and absolute clarity of thought is the first criterion of mystical experience. So, if we have intellectual confusion, it is not how many things I know that is important, but how well I know and how I am going to use, how can I develop that clarity, and how can I focus on the wisdom aspect of it. When he focuses on the emotional aspect, what we understand is the dimension of equanimity. No mystical experience is possible if we do not have finer emotions. So, the most important thing is that experience, that connect with God. So, are we making our younger generations focused with more finer emotions? Are we creating situations, activities where these finer emotions or the connect with God can be gradually focused on? And moral aspect, which Gurudev Ranade says is the responsible dimension of living every day a more ethical and moral life, because morality has no Sundays. And that is why, are we going to perform actions in a sporadic way, in an impulsive way, or can we become more responsible in saying with responsibility, doing with responsibility, and committing with responsibility that has a connection to peace? Because when I don't fulfill what I say, I will not be at peace. And if in our small actions, if we are more contented, we are moving towards peace. Gurudev Ranade speaks about the intuitional aspect. When can intuition become a part of us in the process of awakening? When we are honest. And it is from one of his writings, I quote, if he appears to be true to himself, if his whole life is an embodiment of absolute right and truth, if he does not deviate an inch from the path of goodness and virtue, if his whole life is dedicated to the contemplation of God and the services of humanity, this universality, intellectualism, emotionalism, and the moral fervor, which we have hitherto talked of as but subservient to the greatest criterion, namely a first hand, intimate, intuitive apprehension of God. And that is why, when we focus on the dimension of God realization, it means how much of that clarity, commitment, and conviction we have in this process of living a good life. The second part of my discussion is I have tried to focus on the module which I am going to focus on, the Global Peace Education module. The first part is the theoretical basis of social, emotional, spiritual learning. That is, as I've already said, that we have a very rich saint tradition. So, taking this as a very rich component for this training program, how finer emotions, how moral development, and how, for example, the value of name, which is the spiritual realm, can be focused, and how we can enrich future learners with the same tradition, taking them ahead to the process of God realization. I've also tried to focus on certain practical activities which can be conducted, where we are trying to focus on surrendering to God, involving the youth in social development projects, focusing on the aspect of relooking at life, and having more and more discussions and activity based programs whereby peace education does not just become theoretical but it becomes practical. And so I submit that there is a theoretical base for peace education when we look at Gurudev Ranade's approach. There is a practical viewpoint, that is activity based thing. Plus, I also add that there is a need for quantitative and qualitative research, that what is the impact of this on the target audience. That when they listen to thoughts by great thinkers like Gurudev Ranade, what is that change in the attitude? What is their approach towards peace? I think there is a need for it because there is a gap in what we think they understand and what they really understand. And there is also a constant need to review and reflect. Now, you may ask me a question, is there a one module? No. I have tried to conceptualize 5 modules. One module for individuals to become more aware, focusing on the Indian philosophical realm with a special reference to Gurudev Ranade's thoughts. One module for teachers to train them to become first aware so that they will be able to take it to the students. One module for homemakers because we also want strong families, because strong family is something very unique to India. Vasudeva Kutumbakam can become important when in our own families there is peace. And a module for community, whosoever is the immediate community member, how this can happen. And what I feel is, when we have these programs which are running, a totality of this will be what peace education can be. When can this program fail? If I critique my own program, this can fail if one particular group thinks they only can do something. Like when we say only philosophers can discuss and we only know it. No, every person sitting here is a responsible philosopher. I may have got this academic background for some years, but every person who contemplates about life has a better insight of life, and each person who's sitting here can contribute to the peace education which I am trying to focus. And this cannot happen tomorrow, later, from today. how can we start manifesting what Gurudev Ranade has tried to focus in our own ways to make us aware, and how can I impact at least one person? If that process of impacting one person starts, I think we will not be too late. So let me conclude my presentation with a story again. There was a small child. He was near the sea. The waves were coming, and the fishes were thrown out of the waves. And he was carrying those fishes and putting it again in the water. And there was a very elderly person who just looked at the child and laughed and said, "Why are you doing this? What difference will it make?" And the child looked at the person and said, "Grandfather, it will not make any difference to me, but it will at least make a difference to one fish who will be alive." And so let us keep that in mind. Thank you very much, and sorry if I've taken a long time. Thank you very much.